Hello, Revere, and welcome to our community show. Today we have a real special guest. It's an honor to have him. We're here to have your mayor, as well as my mayor, a veteran of the community and a veteran of the military. And Mayor, let me say thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Morris.
Okay, before we start the show, Mayor, we were talking about some of the topics, and of course we had Veterans Day not too long, so we'll be talking about World War I and World War II.
Sure.
Would you like to start off with the World War I, or would you rather I do that?
Well, I mean, you know, it's entirely up to you. I mean, World War I, we just celebrated the onset of World War I.
Right.
Really not much to celebrate about. You know, you had 9 million people die in that war, but, you know, it was supposed to be the war to end all wars, and as we all know now, that wasn't the case, so,
right.
Unfortunately.
You know, I'm not a computer smarty, let me put it that way, but I'm learning a little bit, so I went on the computer and I wanted to get a little history of World War I because I didn't know too much about it myself. And it all started because of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who got assassinated.
Right.
And then they had what they called the Central Powers, which we had in the Second World War, the Axis powers. And that was made up of Germany, Austria, and I believe Italy, but Italy later transferred to the Allied side.
What was the Ottoman Empire,
right.
which is Turkey now, as we know it, Turkey.
But you know what I noticed, Mayor, during the First World War, is on Christmas, they would stop the fighting, and I got this off the computer, it was on there, that they would go out and they would play football with each other, they would drink with each other, they would talk and write letters with each other, and as soon as Christmas was over at 12 midnight, they went right back to their trenches and started killing each other again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the big picture, you know, it was nice that they were able to share that one day, but, you know, unfortunately, as is the case with any war, it you know, winds up with
right. You know how I look at war?
Obviously numerous fatalities. So.
As a veteran, and you too, that war is what I call legalized murder. For example, if you, let's say you and I are out on opposite sides of the field. If I was to do that to you in peacetime, it would be called murder. Or if you kill me in peacetime, it would be murder. You would pay for it. In wartime, you could shoot me and nothing happens to you. And that's what I mean by legalized murder.
Well, I mean, you know, like that's war, and
I know,
you know, war is declared obviously by Congress and our commander-in-chief. And you know, when you're in the military, you're operating under a whole different set of laws. You're operating under the UCMJ, you know, the United States Code of Military Justice. So, you know, but that's why you're subject to court-martial and not being brought into court if you were ever deemed to have done something like that you weren't supposed to, you know, to do. You know, or that, or even something, you know, simpler, like just something that would violate the, you know,
Convention?
No, the UCMJ. You're operating under a whole different set of laws. So, but I understand what you're saying. It's, you know, if you kill somebody, naturally, that's murder under normal sets of circumstances. Right. But unfortunately, you know, these wars, I mean, from World War I to World War II to the Korean War to Vietnam. I mean, it goes on and on now in Iraq and Afghanistan. And unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to be living in a world where everybody is going to be, you know, in perfect harmony. Ronald Reagan said a long time ago, you know, the United States will experience peace through strength. And so that's why I've always believed in a very strong military. You know, I take that kind of, you know, 30,000-foot view and bring it down to a local municipality like Revere, and that's why I place public safety as my #1 priority, because without law and order, what type of quality of life do we have here? All the other stuff, whether it be, you know...
You have anarchy.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, it's important that we keep our country and our residents safe on a national level, on a obviously statewide level, and on a local level.
You know, I've been criticized for this, Mayor, but I've always spoken my mind. I believe when we send our troops in, we shouldn't tie their hands to say that you can't shoot here, you can't shoot there. If firing is coming, if you were my next door neighbor and you were shooting at my house, I would tell you to get your kids out of there because I would wreck your house on there. we tie our hands. We send our boys on suicide mission when we tell them you can't do that here, you can't do that there, or collateral damage. During the Second World War, we bombed Germany into the ground. We bombed Italy into the ground. We bombed Japan with the atomic bomb twice. We didn't worry whether we're going to kill civilians, children, or kids. You can't fight a war with limited casualties. That's the way I feel.
Right. Well, I mean, in war, you're going to have, look at World War II.
Oh, God.
You had between, estimates are between 60 and 90 million people that were killed, and add, I don't know how many more, tens of millions of people wounded, maybe in the hundreds of millions. I mean, it's like ridiculous when you think of those numbers, and there's no way that in those numbers you're not going to have civilians. Civilians. It's one of the many travesties of war is that you're going to have innocent people, non-military personnel that will be caught in these raids and attacks.
Right, you're going to have collateral damage. You can't help it.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I believe, listen, I mean, I hope that the day does come when we don't have to be in any type of active war, but it's not the world we live in, unfortunately.
No, today we have new weapons called drones, which we go after people in the car. You don't have to, you can cut down the collateral damage. You cannot eliminate it.
Yeah, yeah. That's, I think that's a conversation for people much smarter than me. They're going to have to figure out.
If
when
they're
I was in the
smarter
military,
than you, that got to be smarter. Yes, truly.
When I was in the military, we were still using the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. So, and the Coast Guard.
I'm glad you brought that up. You are a veteran of Grenada. You were in during the war. You were stationed in Lebanon. Tell us something about that.
Yeah, no, I spent 6 years in the military. I spent 6 years in the Navy, active duty. 4.5 of those years I was on an aircraft carrier, the USS Independence, CV-62. And it was, it was some of the best days of my life. I mean, I know you were a World War II veteran, so, I
was a non-combatant World War II veteran.
Well, but nonetheless, I think anybody that signs their name on the dotted line and takes the oath and serves their country deserves an enormous amount of credit. And but while you're in it, naturally, there's a lot of very bad days, whether the fact, in my case, where I was serving on board an aircraft carrier, whether we were away from home for 6 or 7 months at a time, whether we were at sea for weeks at a time, it could be very, very demanding, and you would wish you could be somewhere else, almost anywhere else, a lot of the time. But as I look back now, it's some of the most rewarding years of my life, having had the opportunity to serve in the military. I met a lot of great people, served with a lot of great people, and really accomplished a lot of significant missions, as you talked about. We were in Grenada, and it's interesting because I think that operation, it was deemed Operation Urgent Fury. That was I think back home it was viewed as, they talked about Grenada as being a spice island, and but really it was a very dangerous, really and truly was a very dangerous situation down there. Especially we were sent down with less troops than what we really needed, because I think we had not so good information coming back as to how well prepared they were there. So, but nonetheless, we were able to accomplish that mission and then move on to Lebanon, where you might remember back in the 80s, they had that suicide bomber that went into that Marine barracks. And so, in fact,
200 and some of them got killed there.
Yeah, yeah, and Joe Caffarelli, our police chief.
I was going to mention him.
Unbeknownst to me, who was in the Marines, was over there to respond to that as well. We didn't know it until many, many years later. So, kind of interesting, yeah.
I'd like to take a minute and say to Joe Caffarelli, thank you for your service, sir. And thank you for your service. But you also have a son. who's, I believe, in the military? Or
Yeah, well,
was?
my son was in the Army. He served in the Army. He spent 13 months overseas in Iraq. He was a gunner, and he did, I'm, obviously very proud of him. It's nerve-wracking as a parent, and any parent that would be watching this that has a son or daughter in the military would understand that, or a husband or wife in the military, would recognize that, it's nerve-wracking, and it's nerve-wracking to, when you hear the news come on and they say, 3 more people were killed,
Right.
5 more people were killed, it's it's really tough to go through. But if you think about it, I mean, but for the military, we would not. And I know it sounds cliche at this point, and but but for the military, we would not live the kind of life that we all do here. And that's really what's frustrating for me, is that, sometimes you almost seem to, maybe not so much now, but there's been periods in our history where the military has been maligned. They've been criticized.
The best example is the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
The Vietnam War is the best example of that.
Yeah, those poor, but those poor kids went over there. I think the average age at that time was 19 years old. And I mean, think about a kid 19 years old, like getting put on a plane, flown halfway around the world, dropped into a jungle, and not really knowing who the enemy was. I mean, it's hard to imagine what they had to endure, and then come home. First of all, I'm sure with a lot of psychological issues because of what they had just gone through, and then to be criticized. It really very, very dark days for our country. But I think in defense of our country, I think that the country as a whole has recognized the mistake, and that it wasn't these kids' fault. They got put into something, and
they were just doing their duty.
They were doing their duty, and they answered the call when they were called, and so I think the country now recognizes that. But unfortunately, they had to go through that period of time, and it must have been very, very difficult. I was too young to
That's
to
right.
really
The 60s. Yep.
to really understand and recognize that when it was going on. But
Right. I would like to thank the Beachmont VFW talking about Vietnam. A year ago in June, I believe it was 2013, in June, we had the Vietnam Wall here.
we had the moving wall.
Well, right. I went out to look at it, and I saw something that really shook me up, because I was a young kid at 17 when I went into the service. There was a kid there, I wish I had written his name down, but it's on the Vietnam Wall. Went in right about his age at 14. 14 years old, was there 1 month and was killed. The youngest went to die in the Vietnam War, a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's...
there's just tons of tragedies of war, and I think it's great, like shows like this that you're doing right now, meeting with veterans and talking with veterans and
yep.
putting it out to the public and letting people know. I mean, I don't know, this is one show that we're doing right now, but you do a number of shows that talk about veterans, and talk about...
Not only about veterans, we've had some great veterans up here. I'd like to mention 2, if I may. Sergeant Major Bowker and Sergeant Major Callender of the Revere School, ROTC.
Yeah, that's one of my, I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways. I've got several different sources of great pride since taking over as mayor, but certainly the ROTC is just one of them. I mean, they are a spectacular bunch of kids. I think it's pushing close to 200 kids all told that have got themselves involved with this program. It is just such a good program.
It is.
It's not just for kids that want to go in the military. It's a lot more than that. This program helps kids build the confidence that they're going to need to move on to the next level, whether it's college or whether it's work or whether it's wherever their paths may take them. They get those skills and learn what it's like to be part of a team, to learn what it's like to have discipline, to learn what it's like to carry out a mission and see it through. You know, and so whether or not they go off into the military, that's another story. Of course, a lot of them will,
Right.
but a lot of them won't, and they'll still take away those lessons that they learned as being a member of the JROTC, and you know, they'll always have and always be able to remember those relationships and all of those skills that they were able to learn as part of that program. It really is a tremendous program. I'm very proud of all the work they do.
So am I. And I would also like to say, because of the ROTC and the Revere School, I would like to mention the Superintendent, Paul Dakin, who I believe is going to be retiring pretty soon, if I'm correct.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
the #1 superintendent in the country.
In spite of my kicking and screaming, he's leaving. So, yeah, he's retiring at the end of this year. I think we'll have him for a little bit of next year, but yeah, I mean, he's had a tremendous run. I mean, you know, you think about, you know, I think everybody wants to go, you know, leave their position on a high note. Well, and here we are this year, the only urban school district in Massachusetts that has been able to achieve either level 1 or level 2 status. I mean, just a tremendous honor for him. You know, that's on the heels of being selected, or Revere High School being selected as the #1 high school in the nation, #1 urban high school in the nation by the National Center for Urban School Transformation. That is an incredible honor when you think about 10,000 applications that this organization received out at San Diego State, and Revere High School is #1. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling. But you know what? If you ever walked through the high school and talked with the administrators and talked with the teachers and went into some classrooms and saw the work that these kids were doing, it's absolutely, you know, you can't help but walk away from there shaking your head in amazement just what a great job that this school district is doing in preparing these kids, you know, again, like to move on, whether it be to college, workforce, military, right, wherever they're going.
I have to say this, Mayor. Not too long ago, we celebrated Veterans Day. I had the honor of being invited to go to the Paul Revere School, to Miss Barbara Kelly, who's the principal, and I believe Terry Inserto, who does all the coordination for the veterans. Yeah. And they put on a show every year for veterans to come to the Paul Revere School, and they honor us over there. So I want to take a minute to say thank you, Barbara Kelly, and thank you, Terry Inserto.
Yeah, they do. You know, I mean, there's various events that go on during the year that I really look forward to. That's absolutely one of them. When Dan Clark comes out and
oh yes, terrific,
and you know
he gets the kids moving.
Oh, and all the kids are active participants. The entire school is active participants, and I think, you know, I mean, forget the fact that it's a great production and it's great theater, and it really, you know, you can't walk out of there, you know, and help but feeling very proud to be an American, right? I mean, given the show that you just saw. But what I'm hoping is that these kids, as they go through, you know, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and on and on and on, that when they get out of school at some point in their lives, or as they just continue on into middle school and high school, they'll have more of a respect for what it means to serve in the military. And, you know, they write their poems about what is a veteran, and I'd like to thank a veteran, and all these other things that they do. I hope that really resonates with these kids because, you know, I go to these Veterans Day ceremonies and these Memorial Day ceremonies, and it's people like us. It's World War II veterans. It's people in their, you know, 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know, and yeah, I mean, you know, I'm grateful and I'm happy that I've been trying to pull kids into the services now, whether it to be to sing songs or lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, but I'd like to really, I mean, it's not too much to spend an hour a year or a couple hours a year, but at least, I mean, on Memorial Day, before the barbecues and before all the picnics and everything else that go on, to come down to the American Legion and pay respects to all those names that are on the monuments over there in front of the American Legion. These are people that died to allow us to have these barbecues and these parties on Memorial Day. And to see the crowds get thinner and thinner, it's just it's a little bit discouraging for me. So I'm hopeful that kids today, and God knows that the Paul Revere School has done a tremendous job in promoting,
excellent,
and really promoting, what our military does and what kind of a service that they provide to every one of us as Americans. I'd like to think that these kids will take away something when they leave there, that they'll say, you know what, we're so fortunate to live in the country that we do, and we're so fortunate to have the probably most powerful nation in the world. That's why people turn to us. We are still the superpower.
Right.
For better or worse, we are the superpower. We are still the superpower.
We are the policemen, really, of the world.
Right. Right, and so we're called in and we're expected to respond around the world when crisis strikes. They turn to the United States to sort things out and bring things back to order, and oftentimes, unfortunately, that is done with the loss of American lives. So, Memorial Day once a year. I mean, I try and encourage people. We do a robocall. We do a reverse 911 to people and remind people about the Memorial Day services. Come out, join with the community, and remember these names again that are read every single year on those monuments that sit in front of the Legion.
Right. You know what I would like to see, Mr. Mayor, if I could interject? The new school that's up on Malden Street, the brand new one. What's the name of that one? That was
on Malden Street.
Is it on Malden Street?
You talking about the Susan B. Anthony and the Wayland?
The Wayland, is that the big one down there, North Revere?
Yeah. Well, it's the West Revere School Complex.
Yeah, the big one.
Yeah, there's two schools combined over there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a few years ago, they gave us the honor of inviting World War II veterans from the Senior Center to come down and speak to the kids about World War II, etc. It would be nice if every school in the city of Revere would go through the calendar, look for the Vietnam War, bring in Vietnam veterans, let them do the talking. Grenada, let them do the talking. World War II, let them do the talking. Afghan, bring in each one from each war at a certain time, maybe once a month for 2-3 hours, and just have them talk. And there's something on the computer that they have holidays, which we went over before we went on the air, that shows, like, for example, July 4th, Veterans Day, Patriots Day. Just set aside a couple of hours and invite veterans from that particular era of that war to come and talk to the kids. Then they'll get a real history of the military, and they might even join the military, some of them.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm going to be in real trouble if I'm inviting veterans to come talk to kids on July 4th in school, because...
No, I don't talk about July 4th.
Oh, talk about July 4th. Yeah. Okay. Independence Day, you're right.
Right.
I thought you meant take them to the school on July 4th. That,
hey, that wouldn't be too bad of an idea. We were talking about America being peaceful. When I was in Europe station and World War II, which we'll get into that later, someone mentioned something to me, and this came from a German who had a fight in Germany. He was a 10-year-old kid at the time that he got into the Hitler Youth. And when you were 10 years, you had to join the Hitler Youth. It was compulsory, no ifs, ands, or buts. If you were 18 or 17 or 18, you had to go into the Wehrmacht, the army. No ifs, ands, or buts on there. This is a dictatorship. And when a dictatorship rules a country, and they have been the cause of problems. If you take a look at history, Mayor, every war that's been started has always been started by a country with a dictator, never by a democratic country. I can't think of one democratic country that ever went against another country to go to war, except it was Russia. It's a dictatorship under Stalin. I don't care what you want to call it. Hitler, Nazi Germany. Italy, Mussolini. Japan, okay, they called it a god, Hirohito, dictator, but it was Tojo who was the dictator there. Always dictators. Yeah. Like China, which was a democracy at the time, under Chiang Kai-shek, true, but they had elections. They didn't attack anybody. They were attacked. Czechoslovakia, which had a president, they were attacked. Poland, which had a president, they were attacked. So it was always dictators attacking democratic countries. That's the way I see it.
Right, right. Well, we had in World War II, the Allies consisted of what, 30 countries, I think, something along those lines.
Right, but there was only
So-
4 main ones, really. But we had a
Right.
lot of allies. It was the British, the French, the Russian, and the Americans. I
Right.
mean, the big powers.
And then think about, the Russians were our allies in both World War I and World
World
War
War II, right.
And then somehow, I don't know how, we wound up in the Cold War with them. And
my enemy is my friend. You ever hear that saying
Yeah.
in the Middle East? Well, that's what it is. Russia was really our enemy, communism. But compared to Nazi Germany, they were our ally.
yeah, yeah. Well, and then naturally the breakup of the Soviet Union and
Oh, that was
and,
Gorbachev.
yeah, well,
Glasnost.
that happened. With I think Ronald Reagan did a remarkable job. I can remember as a kid really having a strong fear of Russia. We had.
Oh, yes.
But like there were bomb shelters that they would,
Hiding
be
under the schools and the desks,
directed to.
remember?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And
I remember my granddaughter coming home and practicing in the house, running. She says, how fast you can run and hide. Like that would save you.
yeah, oh, well, but unfortunately, you don't have much more you can do at that point if you're. But especially back in those days. But yeah, it's unfortunately, this is the world that we live in, and I think it's going to be the world, unfortunately, that we continue to live in. But if we just continue to have a strong military, and even more, well, just as important, a strong intelligence. We need a strong central intelligence agency that can monitor, because today especially, everything, is, as we were talking about, the iPads and all this
Right.
stuff. I mean, information is traveling. It's not just they're going to pick up conversations over the airwaves
That's
now.
right.
They got to monitor the internet. And I can't even imagine trying to handle the transfer of information across the world on the internet. It's just
People
incredible.
don't realize when I was in the military intelligence at the end of the war, certain things had to be done in code. Of course, they were restricted. They're not restricted anymore. The Germans had what they called the Enigma machine. That was almost an unbreakable code, but the British did break it. A Pole from Poland and the British got together and they broke the code on there. The way they taught us to do secrets in that time, they didn't have the computers or internet, is to take a book, like let's say Sherlock Holmes, and you would pick a page for today, page 137 today, and you would go down and find the letter A, which may be the first letter in the sentence, but it might be the 6th letter down. So if you wanted to write an A, you would write 6. And in other words, if I wanted to make a sentence, it would be numbers. But nobody would know what those numbers meant because they didn't know the page that we were doing. That's where we were taught how to put certain things in script if you wanted to do it.
Well,
So we didn't have computers in those days. We had to use our noodle. But like you said, today, everything is on the computer. Even you saw me when you came in, I was sitting there looking up World War I, which we were discussing.
yeah, sure.
From the computer. You can get a good education just looking at the computer.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at kids now. When kids enter the high school, the first thing they're handed is an iPad. So I mean, this is where their learning, for the most part, takes place, is on that iPad, and it's just a changing world. I mean, I can remember carrying my armload of books home at the end of a school day. These kids got it all on the iPad, and the teachers are exchanging emails with the kids.
Right.
And so yeah, you can get. I mean, and as Morris, we've got iPads now that have been sent over to the senior center to help seniors, get more acclimated with the internet and things like
Right.
that. So
I would like to, talking about iPads, I just want to get a little advanced. Google
yeah,
donated some computers to the city of Revere.
you get the shirt on right there. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Put Revere. I don't want to put Revere on the map. I really don't, Mayor. I want to put Revere on the universe, not on the map.
Yeah.
When they go to Mars, I won't be around. In 20 years, they're talking about going to Mars. I hope somebody takes one of my shirts and wraps it up and shoots it up there. Not me, folks, just the shirt. Okay. So I would like to see that. But you know, tell us something, because a lot of people didn't know that Google had a contest. Could you just elaborate on that for us, Mayor?
Yeah, when we were out at the U.S. Conference of Mayors back in June of 2013, they had announced a contest, and the contest was sponsored by the U.S. Conference of Mayors, but it was in conjunction with Google, and their goal was to have each community that wanted to participate go back to their respective communities and bring as many people or as many businesses online as they possibly could. And the way they were doing that is that they were giving anybody that was interested a free website design, and free web hosting for 1 year. So, and the reason is because naturally, you know, it's all about jobs, it's all about the economy. We all know that, you know, people's quality of life oftentimes, most times, is determined by having a good paying job where they can support themselves and their families. So, and businesses with an active working website statistically do 40% better than those that don't. So they wanted us to go back to our communities, work with our business community, and get people online. So we solicited the help of the Revere Chamber of Commerce, the Revere Interact Club, Revere Youth in Action. So we took, we kind of melded, you know, city government with the business community, with the school department. And we all kind of came together to work to get businesses online. And as a result, we won first place. When I went back to the conference in June down in Dallas, Texas, we didn't know at the time, but when we got there and they were announcing the winners, Revere finished first. And as a result, we were given a $50,000 technology award. And that award wasn't a cash award, it was a $50,000 award in equipment. So they gave us, first of all, they gave us 2 kiosks. One is in Revere City Hall and one is in the Chamber of Commerce. And it allows people to come to City Hall or to the Chamber of Commerce and be able to do business online. So if they want to go online, get on the internet, if they want to go visit various departments in city government, they can do that. And if they want to get themselves hooked up for a website through Google, they can do that. So it's really, it's been a great addition to City Hall, and I know the Chamber would think it's a great addition for them. And as a result of not only winning this award, did we get the $50,000 technology package, which was these 2 kiosks, and I think, I don't know, 150, not iPads.
Chromebooks?
Chromebooks, thank you. 100, you know, we got like 150 Chromebooks. So we gave every kid that participated to help us. The kids actually taught the business owners how to create a website. I mean, it was just such a great program. In fact, Google was so impressed. We did a video with the help of Revere TV, Rob Dunbar and others that participated, and sent it off to Google. Google told me when I went to Dallas that that video went viral through Google because they were so impressed with how we laid out the fact that we involved the kids, we involved the business community, we involved the city, and what a great partnership it was. And it was really on that basis that we won this award. And we are now one of 3 pilot testing cities in the country on a program. You're wearing the shirt. Let's put Revere on the map.
Right.
There's only 2 other cities in the country that have that right now, where we're continuing on with this program, and and Google in the meantime is monitoring and measuring our success and how we are proceeding, because they, again, you know, by virtue of the fact that we won first place in this, they feel as though we have a great recipe to bring to the rest of the country. So it's a great source of pride for me. Again, you know, I'm so proud of the kids, proud of our business community for rallying the way they did. You know, a strong business community, no doubt about it, makes for a stronger and better overall community. And the better our businesses do and the more involved our business community is in day-to-day activities, I think makes us a stronger city.
Right. And by the way, talking about businesses, there's a couple of new businesses that came in. But one of the big ones, I think, right now is the Market Basket that came in there.
So Market Basket, I hadn't gone in there. I took a tour before they opened, and very, very impressed. 80,000 square feet. They went over their philosophy on how they are, their commitment to the customer. Everything's got to be fresh, and prices got to be low, and so but again, this is while they were still stocking shelves and all that. So then I went to the ribbon cutting, and I really wanted to go in and look around, but I just didn't have time. It was a full day, so I couldn't do it. And then I think a couple weeks went by, and I finally said, in fact, I was at a ribbon cutting down at Northgate for another project where we broke ground on down next to BJ's. And after that, I said, I'm going to go over to Market Basket and check this out. I haven't been there yet. So I went over to Market Basket, and I went inside, and first of all, it was great to see so many Revere people working there, close to 500 people, and of those, I think he said about 75% of them are like living in Revere, which was tremendous.
Terrific.
It was one of the great byproducts of bringing a Market Basket there. But the other thing is that I found remarkable was that he had all of his numbers there, because I asked him, how's the store doing? He pulled out his sheet, and he said, last week, 45,000 people came to the store in a week.
Wow.
That's incredible. I mean,
Right.
Now, that being said, we knew they were going to be successful. I didn't know how successful that they were actually going to be. I don't think they realized how successful they were going to be. Revere right now only open for how long? A few months?
Right.
It's the #2 store out of 71 stores right now for Market Basket, #2.
Give it time, it'll be #1. Just
Yeah.
give it a little time.
It's just amazing. But so with that, as the saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished, right? So, I mean, we worked extremely hard to try to get Market Basket, and we were the first store to open after they went through all of their family business and they finally got things squared away, because we kept pounding on them and pounding on them and pounding. And so when they realized we weren't going to go away, they probably said, let's get them off our backs here and get the store open. So, but they've really been, let me just digress a little bit, they've been tremendous to deal with. They're a tremendous company. The culture is incredible. And as I say, the commitment they have to their employees and their customers, you just don't find it anywhere. So, but the problem that we have now, and we've got to try to work with this, is the traffic.
Right.
We always try to mitigate traffic. I would never approve a project where we didn't, have a traffic plan that would address it. Now, does that mean that because we have a traffic plan, there'll never be a traffic jam? No, it doesn't mean that, but it means that we'll have what we believe to be adequate egress, adequate entrances and to keep the traffic moving. But we didn't anticipate 45,000 people in a week. So we're going to have to work with, Mass Department of Transportation and our own engineers to maybe
That's about 6,500 people a day.
Yeah, exactly.
A
It's
day.
crazy. So think of that by the hours they're
Yep.
open. So, we're going to have to work with the lights a little bit more. We're going to have to maybe cut out more of the island so cars can queue up better, because they're backing up to Copeland Circle right now. Or when the light turns green coming east on Route 60 from Copeland Circle toward Northgate, they're getting caught in the traffic that's coming toward Copeland Circle from traffic on Route 60 west. So we need to tweak that, and we are working on that. I think your viewers should know that.
Right.
So.
Mayor, as being part of the senior center, I hear people talking about senior center, and some of them talk about the traffic. And they say the worst traffic, they don't talk about Bell Circle. They don't talk about down near Lynn, the Rotary by Lynn. they talk about North Shore Road intersecting the American Legion Highway that goes past Suffolk Downs, I believe, the highway there, as you're coming down North Shore Road by the Sunoco station. When that light turns green, the cars that are coming down the highway this way sometimes don't stop at the red light. So they block up the traffic of the North Shore, and then you have a backup all the way, sometimes as far back to Shirley Avenue in the morning on there.
Okay, well, I really wasn't aware
No,
of that.
I'm just, this is what I heard at the senior center. And you can ask the people that live around that area. Sometimes it's hard for the people, for example, the school buses or people that live on Garfield, Elliott, Standish around that area to get into North Shore Road because the cars are bumper to bumper. Because when the light turns green heading into the highway, only about 3 or 4 cars can go because a lot of them want to go over to the complete right to get into the shopping center. So they block it.
Yeah, that's a terrible, I mean, that would have been, I mean, had the casino come in.
Yep, that would have been resolved.
We had a traffic plan to resolve that. So that actually, that's why I used to say during this whole casino debate, this isn't, you know, we're not creating a traffic problem, we're creating a traffic solution.
Exactly.
And I don't think anybody could have fully appreciated that unless they were working on the traffic plan like I was. And, you know, unfortunately, that's, at least temporarily, it's water under the bridge right now with this, as far as the gaming license. But traffic is an issue, and I think people have to recognize, and I get as frustrated as anybody, if I leave my house during that school hour,
right.
You know,
the same here, but I expect that.
We're a small city. It's very dense. We're a small city. We've got 10 schools. Everyone's going to school at about the same time. We've got 7,200 students.
Wow.
A lot of them are on school buses, but a lot of them are with their parents driving them to school. Some are walking. You're gonna sit in some traffic if you're out during the school hour, and there's no way to fix that. It's not a fixable problem. It's something that we just all have to deal with. And by the way, it's not just us dealing with the problem. If you moved to Malden or Medford or Lynn or Chelsea or
Somerville
Everett,
even,
or Somerville or Cambridge or wherever you go, you are still going to be behind school buses.
Right.
You're still going to be behind parents that are dropping off their kids. You're still going to be sitting in traffic waiting to get to your destination. It's just how it is.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here because I want you to tell some of the people. I've seen that when the school bus puts the 2-stop sign out, that don't mean you can go around them.
No, that but that's a serious penalty. That's a serious fine.
But who takes care of that? The school bus driver?
The bus driver. Typically, if the stop sign on the bus is
they both got to be out.
Yeah, I mean, the bus driver will take down a plate number. They'll call it in, and those people that would go around a school bus when they're letting children off or on are going to have a serious ticket in the mail to them. So I think they've got to really think twice before they. I recognize people are in a hurry, but the children's safety.
This is in the morning going to work.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people running to work.
Yeah.
So that's good. By the way, since you mentioned the casino, I'd like to say one thing I heard this morning. That Somerville, the mayor, I believe his name is Cortano or
Joe Curtatone.
Joe Curtatone. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
He's opening up a lawsuit. Can you expand on that for us, sir?
Yeah, well, Mayor Curtatone has been a long-time opponent of gaming in general, let alone having a casino put right across the way from Assembly Row that he worked long and hard to bring to fruition.
I remember that, yeah.
He, like me, shares in the belief that Sullivan Square, and that site in particular, is not prime real estate for a resort destination casino. It makes no sense in his mind. It makes no sense in my mind. It makes no sense in Mayor Walsh's mind from the city of Boston. The only people it seems to make sense to is the Gaming Commission. And, we have an active lawsuit against them in court right now. I don't believe they've responded as of yet. They just keep on patting each other on the back as more revelations and allegations against Wynn keep coming out. They keep acting as though and celebrating their success in this as if the rest of the state is just going to sit there and believe the same thing they're believing. it's not the case, and they're going to find this out very shortly.
His name is Joseph Curtatone, is that correct?
Curtatone.
Curtatone, thank you.
Yeah.
Talking. Before we continue, there's a couple people that I would like to honor. You know them. They do so much for the city. They do so much for the community and so much for the veterans. But they never get any credit. So I'd like to mention a couple of people, if I may.
Sure.
One of them is Pamela Anderson. I'm sure you know her.
Sure.
She donated a bunch of chrysanthemum, I guess that's what they are, Christmas flowers, to the senior center. Pamela, thank you. When we went down to Bourne to put flags on the grave, who was there? Pamela, thank you.
Yeah, no, Pamela Anderson has been a great volunteer. She's, you know, you can go to meeting after meeting, and chances are she's there. We had a mass badge, as you may remember.
You think, yep, Joe is, what's his name?
Nicola.
Nicola, right?
Yep. You know, it was a great, it's been a great tradition. Mass badge is made up of law enforcement officers.
Right.
And they serve, you know, hundreds of people turkey dinners at Thanksgiving time. They give it of their own free time. And just to help people that need it during the, you know, these
right, Mayor.
you know, these major holidays.
I got to tell you about Joe. Joe, don't get mad. He gave me an apron to greet the people coming in. On the apron it says chef. They came and they said, Morris, who made you chef? I says, he just gave me that apron. He says, Morris, you don't even know how to boil water. They made you chef. I says, okay. Joey, I got to say one thing. You did an excellent, fabulous job. Thank you from the veterans and the city of Revere. Beautiful. And he's been on my show twice about Mass Badge. And I hope next year we get together.
Well, Joe's a tremendous officer. He's a member of our
excellent.
He's a member of our SWAT team, and just an overall good guy. But we can't forget, really, the rest of the department that was there to show their support. There was several officers that were there participating in that, and you know, it just you know, people are quick to criticize the police department, but they don't see all the good things that they do, and. You know, it's got to be a very, very, very tough job, you know, to go out there and have to keep law and order in the city, to have to uphold all the laws and the regulations that we're all that we're all you know, forced to comply with. But you know, but then they get criticized for doing their job, and it's really, really very unfair. I mean, you know, they go out every single day under very, very strenuous and difficult circumstances. They deal with the people that you and I don't want to deal with and wouldn't want to deal with, but they do it so that we don't have to deal with them. And you know, to take time out and, you know, as Joe said at the Mass Badge event at the VFW, to give back, you know, like I had said to him at that time, you know, you give back every single day, and our police, you know, department, and really all of our first responders, they give back each and every day. I mean, you know, when you call 911, you know, those three little numbers are gonna produce a number of people when you need it. Right. So,
before we continue, Mayor, I want to make sure I don't forget, because of my age, memory is not the greatest of things. I'm like a computer. The older I get, the slower I get, you know. But anyway, we give flags to veterans. We give them to community veterans. You happen to be both, but it's an honor to have you come on here. So,
oh, it's my pleasure.
We want to give you this flag on behalf of the Revere Allied Veterans Council and the city of Revere, which you happen to be mayor, as a token of our appreciation. But we're not done yet. We still got about a few minutes. We'd like to talk about World War II, if we can.
Sure.
I just heard the other day on the radio that the reason World War II started, of course, there's a million excuses, was because of the Versailles Treaty. Because it made Germany repay all the reparations for the whole war, not just for Germany's end of the war, the Allies' war. And I just heard that 2012 was the last payment that Germany had to make to repay for the war. So I hope I'm wrong on that. But anyway, I happen to be with the occupied army in Germany during the end of the Second World War. I got him because my President Truman declared December the 31st, 1946, the official end of the World War II. Not May the 8th when the Germany surrendered, but 1946. A lot of people don't know that, but that was it. So that put me in a category as a World War II veteran. But I was only 17 at the time. And I was born in 29, so do the math, 46, 17. I was stationed in Berlin. I like to thank one, I don't know if he's still alive. If you're out there, his name was Lieutenant Popien, Popien. Spoke perfect Russian, American lieutenant. Him and I worked together. Me on the German side, him on the Russian side, that we worked together out there. So if you're still alive, Lieutenant, thank you. I would like to thank him. And by the way, in case people don't know, we were stationed at one time in Southfelden, Austria, which is a little town made up of very few people in there. I mean, we were probably the only 2 Americans stationed there, but they did have a DP camp, displaced person camp, so we would interrogate the people that came out of the concentration camps to get the families to see if we could help them find each other at the time. That's what we saw. We saw people that had those uniforms that came out of the concentration camps. Some of them still wore them even in 46. They had no other clothes. So, yep. I happened to go to Spandau, like I said to you before, to see Rudolf Hess working in the Russian jail there. He was the only prisoner there. The Russians would guard him. They had a big fence around him, and he'd be working in the garden, planting little seeds on there. And only 4 years ago, he was almost second in command to the big shot in there. So.
Yeah. Well, Morris, I don't know what I can. I'm not sure what I can add to that. You were there in the middle of it, so I mean, far be it from me to try and dissect World War II. I have heard,
right,
you know, that various reasons on why World War II started, and I know the United States didn't jump in until later.
Well, we jumped. Well, what happened in World War II? Japan attacked us.
Yeah.
December the 7th, which was only
December
a few
7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day. Yeah.
We did not go into war. I mean,
we declared war against Germany at that point.
President Roosevelt.
I mean, against Japan, rather.
Well, the following day, December the 8th, President Roosevelt made that famous speech, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself," and he's the one that decided to have a declaration of war against Japan. The 2 ambassadors that were here at the time to speak to, I believe, Secretary of State Cordell Hull, was his name, if my memory is correct, was Nomura and Caruso, the 2 ambassadors. They were talking while Pearl Harbor was being bombed. But Pearl Harbor could have been saved if someone would have listened to that Navy man that was out there who heard the planes he received on the radar or whatever they had, that there was a bunch of planes coming in, and he called up his commanding officer. He says, "Oh, there are Americans coming in, don't worry about it." But there were Japanese. And talking about the Japanese, I'm sure you heard of Admiral Yamamoto, who was the leader of that, an MIT graduate from our school, right here in Boston.
Yep, you're right.
Admiral Yamamoto, right?
Yep.
Smart man. Have him come in with torpedoes to bomb the ships. Have him come in with machine guns to strafe the airport. Have him come in with the bombers to bomb the airplanes. So he was the one that organized that thing. But we got him at the end in Bougainville. I think we shot him down.
Right.
So that was it in a nutshell.
Yep, yep. So, yeah, very. I mean, you know, you know, it always strikes me on Memorial Day, you know, of all the names, and we read. I mean, we read. You know, we read the Civil War. You know, names from the Civil War, and then moving on to you know, the World War I and then World War II. But think about how many names just from Revere that are read when we get to World War II. It's absolutely amazing to me. It always amazes me, the number of families that were affected in Revere back at that time. Revere
can become one of the best tourist attractions in the country for people that are Civil War buffs. Like Miles Kennedy. He loves to talk about the Civil War. He's a Civil War.
He is, yeah.
We have a cemetery right here at
Rumney Marsh Burial Grounds, yeah.
Right. I was looking at the stones one time at the dates. There are people buried there before America was even founded as a country, really, about 1600. People want to come down and go through that because they will get a good history of the Civil War, and there's young kids there buried. I mean, it's a shame. But there's 13, I believe, 13 Union soldiers that are actually buried there just as well, from the Civil War on there. So we have history, not only about Revere Civil War, we have the monuments. Oh, I forgot to thank one other lady, if I may.
Of course, it's your show.
You're the one that thanked, no, it's our show, but you're the one that thanked her too. The one that made the monument for the women of the city of Revere.
Eileen Marullo.
Eileen Marullo.
Yep. She's a World War II veteran.
Right, she worked at the Walter Reed Hospital.
Yeah.
And I hope if this goes on YouTube or Facebook, and President Obama, he likes to give the Medal of Honor to civilians. If you ever get a chance, you ought to take a look at Eileen Marullo, because there's a 92-year-old woman, all by her lonesome, went out to collect 150 signatures to build a monument honoring the women of World War II. So President Obama, I have to say this, if you ever want to give somebody a real Medal of Honor, that's the lady you should give it to.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, no, she's got a tremendous story, and you know, I don't think I was mayor for 30 days when she first approached me asking about a.
And we had Major General McKinnon come down here, remember?
Yeah, yeah. When she puts her mind to something, she gets it done. So,
right. Now, Mayor, we only have about 4.5 minutes. This is the fastest hour I've ever seen, because we could go for another 2 days if you had time, but we'll cut it down.
Yeah, no, it's been very enjoyable.
First of all, since we're almost done with all these, talk about your future plans for the city of Revere, what you like to see, what you would yourself would like to do for the city, or what the city would be doing. And
well, you know.
First of all, I got to thank you too. I got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
We had on July 28, I believe, we had a tornado in the city of Revere.
Right.
You did a fabulous job. Chief Doherty did an excellent job in getting the place cleaned up with the city of Revere. The Works Department, the police did an excellent job controlling the traffic at that time. But I want to thank Chief Doherty, because he came down to our senior center, where I go almost all the time, and shut the gas up, because we smelled the gas, and then pretty soon it would have gone boom boom, and we wouldn't have had a senior center. So, Chief Doherty, thank you too.
Yeah, no, you know, the city responded tremendously to that storm. I mean, I wish we were able to respond as tremendously to the aftermath and the cleanup. But you know, we're still putting windows into City Hall as we speak, and here we are in December. So, you know, are
you still collecting funds for the tornado?
Well, tomorrow morning, ironically enough, Jerry Leone, who's the former Middlesex County District Attorney, who I asked to spearhead the relief fund. This relief fund, by the way, I guess I gotta back up for a second. And you know, look, we want to help as many residents as we can. We decided to do this because we wanted to help. This isn't a state or city or federally run program. We just decided, let's try to help the victims of the storm.
Exactly.
So, and all that is based on how much money we can raise. So we've raised, you know, close to $250,000. I mean,
that's hardly enough to cover maybe 2 or 3 houses.
Yeah, well, you know, we're going to give everybody a little something.
No, I know
that submitted their applications and met the deadline. Is it going to make them completely whole in a lot of cases? No. In some cases, yes. You know, I mean, it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but we decided the best way to do it is to give everybody that put an application in, that met all the criteria, that met the deadline for submitting their applications, that provided us with all the documentation that we needed, we're going to give them something, a piece of that $250,000. How much is it going to be? We're going to determine that over this week when Jerry Leone comes in. Again, someone that I asked to spearhead the fund, along with his board of directors.
We only have about a minute left. If people want to donate money, how can they do it real quick?
They can go to our website, revere.org, or go to reveretornadorelief.org, and they can donate there.
And they can drop it off at City Hall if they want to?
They can certainly drop checks off to City Hall, made out to the Revere Tornado Relief Fund.
Okay, Mayor. I want to say it was an honor and a pleasure to have you come on here, the Revere Veterans and Community, for an hour. I want to salute you for your service to our country, but most of all, you're a terrific, great mayor since I've lived in the city of Revere. I wish I was about 50 years younger so I could see you for another 20, 30, 40 years here.
Marsh, you got another 50,000 miles. Don't worry about it. We're both going to be here for a while. Thank you for your service as well.
Thank you. And thank you for the people for the city of Revere. God bless you all out there. God bless the city of Revere, our troops, and our great country, the United States of America. And one more time, God bless you, Mayor, for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Marsh.